The crimson sun cast long shadows across the dusty street of Willow Creek, Arizona Territory, as Patience Dawson clutched her worn carpetbag, her heart pounding against her ribs. The year was 1878, and behind her stood the remnants of what she had once called home, now nothing but a collection of bitter memories and hastily scrawled condemnations. "You best keep walking, girl," came the harsh voice of the town's mayor. "Your kind ain't welcome here no more." Patience straightened her back, refusing to let them see her tremble. At 22, she had never imagined she would become an outcast from the only town she had ever known. Her crime: healing the sick with methods passed down by her grandmother, herbs, poultices, and remedies that the new town doctor had deemed witchcraft and dangerous superstition. 3 days to pack up and leave, they had told her after the town meeting, or we'll have Sheriff Collins escort you out. The tears threatened to come, but Patience blinked them away. Her father had died in the silver mines 2 years ago, her mother from consumption the winter after. There was nothing left for her here anyway, she told herself, even as her heart ached at the cruelty of it all. With her last coins, she had purchased passage on the westbound stage, hoping to reach San Francisco, where perhaps her knowledge might be valued rather than feared. The stagecoach wasn't due until morning, leaving her one night to camp outside of town. As she walked beyond the town limits, the weight of her banishment pressed down upon her shoulders. The townspeople had watched her leave, some with sympathy hidden behind averted eyes, others with open disdain. The whispers followed her: witch, devil woman, strange girl cutting deeper than any knife could. Night fell quickly in the desert, and Patience made camp beneath a twisted juniper tree. She built a small fire, enough to keep the coyotes at bay and to warm her hands as she stared into the flames. Tomorrow she would begin again. Tonight she would allow herself to mourn what she had lost. The crack of a twig startled her from her thoughts. Patience scrambled to her feet, clutching the small knife she kept in her boot. "Who's there?" she called, her voice steadier than she felt. A tall figure emerged from the darkness, leading a chestnut mare. In the firelight, she could make out the silhouette of a man broad-shouldered, with a cowboy hat pulled low over his eyes. "Didn't mean to frighten you, miss," he said, his voice deep but gentle. "Saw your fire from the ridge, thought I'd check if everything was all right." As he stepped closer, Patience could see him clearly, a man perhaps a few years older than herself, with sun-weathered skin and eyes the color of a summer sky. He wore the practical clothes of a working cowhand: denim trousers, a cotton shirt rolled up at the sleeves, and a worn leather vest. "I'm fine," she replied curtly, not lowering her knife. "Just resting before tomorrow's stage." The stranger nodded, keeping a respectful distance. "Name's Adam Thornton. I work at the R Ranch about 10 miles north." He gestured to the darkness behind him. "Not safe for anyone to camp alone out here, especially not a lady." Patience kept her guard up. "I can take care of myself, Mr. Thornton." A small smile tugged at his lips. "I don't doubt it, madam, but there's safety in numbers. Mind if I share your fire tonight?" "I'll be on my way at first light." She hesitated, assessing him. There was something in his direct gaze that spoke of honesty. And truth be told, the thought of company, even a stranger's, was more appealing than facing the night alone with her thoughts. "Very well," she conceded, lowering her knife. "But keep to your side of the fire." Adam nodded, tethering his horse to a nearby shrub before settling down across from her. He removed his hat, revealing a shock of sandy brown hair, and placed it beside him. "You're the healer," he said suddenly, not a question but a statement. "From town." Patience stiffened. "How did you know that?" "Word travels fast in these parts," he replied, adding a few sticks to the fire. "They say you cured old Mrs. Wilkins of her breathing troubles when the doctor had given up on her." "And now they say I'm a witch," she said bitterly. Adam's eyes met hers across the flames. "People fear what they don't understand, and you," she challenged. "Do you fear me too, Mr. Thornton?" He considered her for a long moment. "No, Miss Dawson, Patience Dawson, Miss Dawson, I don't fear you. My mother was Cherokee." She knew the ways of plants and healing, saved more lives on our homestead than any doctor with fancy papers could have. Something in Patience eased slightly. Where is she now, your mother? A shadow crossed his face. Gone, 6 years now. Fever took her and my pa both within a week of each other. I'm sorry, she offered, recognizing the familiar pain of loss in his eyes. They fell into silence, the crackling of the fire the only sound between them. After a while, Adam reached into his saddlebag and pulled out some jerky and hardtack, offering her a share. Thank you, she said, accepting the simple meal gratefully. Where are you heading? He asked between bites. San Francisco. I have a distant cousin there who might take me in until I find my footing. Adam nodded thoughtfully. Long journey, especially alone. I don't have much choice, she replied. There's always a choice, Miss Dawson. The way he looked at her then with curiosity rather than judgment made something stir inside her. For the first time since the town meeting, Patience felt seen rather than scrutinized. The night passed with sporadic conversation. Adam told her about the ranch where he worked, about breaking horses and driving cattle. Patience found herself sharing stories of her healing the fever she had broken in the blacksmith's son, the difficult birth she had helped with at the Hendersons' farm. It felt good to speak of her skills with pride rather than shame. When dawn broke over the eastern horizon, Patience packed her meager belongings, preparing for the stagecoach's arrival. Well, Miss Dawson, Adam said, settling his hat back on his head, I wish you safe travels. She nodded, suddenly reluctant to part ways with this stranger who had shown her kindness when it was in short supply. Thank you for the company, Mr. Thornton. He mounted his horse with the easy grace of a man who had spent his life in the saddle. But instead of riding off, he remained, looking down at her with an expression she couldn't quite read. You know, he said slowly, the R is looking for someone with healing knowledge. Our ranch is big, over 30 hands, and accidents happen. The nearest doctor is in Willow Creek, and that's too far when a man's bleeding bad or when the fever takes hold. Patience's heart quickened. Are you offering me a position? It wouldn't be much room and board, small wages, but it'd be honest work using your gifts. Why would you do this? She asked, suspicious of unexpected kindness. You hardly know me. Adam's gaze was steady. Because I've seen what happens when good people are cast out for being different. My mother faced the same when we first settled here. He paused. Your difference isn't something to be feared, Miss Dawson. From what I've heard, it's a blessing to those around you. Patience hesitated, torn between the safety of her original plan and this unexpected opportunity. What about your employer? Would he hire someone the town has branded a witch? Adam smiled then, a warm, genuine smile that transformed his weathered face. Mr. Reeves is a practical man. He cares more about results than rumors. Besides, he was at your father's side when the mine collapsed. He never forgot how you tended to the wounded that day. The memory of that terrible day flooded back the dust, the screams, the desperate race to save as many men as possible. She had worked alongside the doctor then, before he turned against her methods. The stage will be here soon, she said, glancing toward town. Or you could ride with me, Adam replied simply. See the ranch, meet Mr. Reeves. If it doesn't suit you, I'll bring you back for tomorrow's stage myself. Patience looked at the dusty road leading back to town, then at the open country beyond. What waited for her in San Francisco but uncertainty? At least here she knew the land, the plants that grew in the valleys and hillsides. All right, Mr. Thornton, she decided. I'll see this ranch of yours. The relief on his face was evident, though she couldn't understand why her decision should matter so much to him. He dismounted, helping her secure her carpetbag to his saddle before offering his hand to help her up. You can ride in front, he said. Daisy's gentle, but she responds best to a firm hand on the reins. Patience settled into the saddle, acutely aware of Adam as he mounted behind her, his chest warm against her back. It had been years since she had been this close to a man, and never one who looked at her the way he did, with respect rather than suspicion. They rode north. the rising sun warming their backs as Patience left behind the only home she had ever known. She didn't look back at Willow Creek. Instead, she fixed her gaze on the horizon, where the mountains rose purple and hazy in the distance. "Your difference is what makes you special, Miss Dawson," Adam said quietly as they rode. "Never let anyone convince you otherwise." The Triple R Ranch spread across a valley backed by pine-covered hills, a cluster of buildings surrounded by corrals and pastureland. As they approached, Patience could see men at work, some mending fences, others driving cattle into a pen. Smoke rose from the chimney of the main house, a sturdy two-story structure built of timber and stone. "Home," Adam said simply as they rode through the gates. Several of the ranch hands called greetings to Adam as they passed, curious glances directed at Patience. She straightened her spine, determined not to show any sign of the nervousness fluttering in her stomach. They dismounted in front of the main house, and Adam led her inside. The interior was surprisingly comfortable, polished wooden floors, sturdy furniture, and a large stone fireplace that dominated the main room. A tall, silver-haired man rose from a desk in the corner, his expression curious but not unwelcoming. "Thornton, didn't expect you back so soon." "Mr. Reeves," Adam said, removing his hat. "This is Miss Patience Dawson from Willow Creek. She's the healer I mentioned." Reeves approached, studying Patience with sharp eyes. "James Reeves, miss. I own this spread." "Pleased to meet you, sir," she replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "Your father was Michael Dawson?" he asked. "Yes, sir. He died in the Silver Creek mine collapse." Something softened in the rancher's face. "Good man, your father, one of the bravest I knew." He gestured for them to sit at a large oak table. "Now, Thornton tells me you have a way with healing." For the next hour, Patience answered Reeves' questions about her knowledge of medicines, her experience with injuries and illnesses. She spoke confidently of her abilities, refusing to downplay her skills despite the trouble they had caused her. "And the business in town?" Reeves asked finally. "About witchcraft, superstition," she replied firmly. "I use plants and remedies passed down through generations. There's nothing magical about it, just knowledge some have forgotten." Reeves nodded, seemingly satisfied. "We lost 2 good men last winter because we couldn't get them to a doctor in time. I don't intend to lose more." He rose from his chair. "The position is yours if you want it, Miss Dawson. Room and board, $30 a month. You'll have a cabin to yourself, small but sound. And I'll have a proper infirmary built onto it within the month." Relief washed over Patience. "Thank you, Mr. Reeves, I accept." "Good," he said briskly. "Thornton, show Miss Dawson to the old foreman's cabin, get her settled." He turned back to Patience. "You can start by looking at Peterson's arm. Cut it bad on some barbed wire yesterday." As they left the house, Patience felt a weight lift from her shoulders. Here was a chance to use her skills openly, to help people without fear of condemnation. "Thank you," she said quietly to Adam as they walked toward a small cabin set apart from the bunkhouse. He glanced down at her, a smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. "No need for thanks. Ranch needs a healer. You need a place where your skills are valued. Simple as that." But Patience sensed there was more to it than simple practicality. The way he had sought her out, the conviction in his voice when he spoke of her differences being a strength rather than something to fear, it spoke of a personal understanding that went beyond mere kindness to a stranger. The cabin was indeed small but sturdy, a single room with a stone fireplace, a narrow bed in one corner, a table and chairs, and a small cooking area. Windows on 2 sides let in plenty of light, and a small porch faced the mountains. "It's perfect," Patience said, stepping inside. After the uncertainty of the past days, the simple space felt like a sanctuary. "It needs some fixing up," Adam said, looking around critically. "I'll help you with that, and I'll bring your things from the horse." As he turned to go, Patience caught his arm. "Why did you really help me, Mr. Thornton? The truth, please." His blue eyes held hers for a long moment. "Because when I saw you walking out of town yesterday, head high despite everything, I recognized something in you." The same courage my mother showed when folks turned against her for being different. He paused. And because I believe your gifts are exactly what this place needs. His honesty touched her. Thank you for seeing value where others saw only threat. Your difference isn't something to fear, Miss Dawson, he said softly. To me, it's something to admire. In that moment, standing in the doorway of what would become her new home, Patience felt the first stirrings of something she had not expected to find a sense of belonging. The weeks that followed were busy ones for Patience. Word of her skills spread quickly among the ranch hands, and soon she found herself tending to everything from cuts and burns to broken bones and fevers. She set up her infirmary in the front room of the cabin, organizing her supplies and gathering local herbs to replenish her medicines. Adam Thornton became a frequent visitor. At first, his visits had practical purposes, helping repair her cabin roof, building shelves for her medicinal supplies, bringing injured ranch hands to her door. But soon, he began stopping by in the evenings simply to talk. They would sit on her small porch, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and crimson, sharing stories of their lives. Adam told her of growing up in Kansas Territory, the son of a Cherokee mother and a white settler father. He spoke of learning to track and hunt from his mother's brother, of the prejudice they faced from both white settlers and full-blooded Cherokee who viewed their family with suspicion. We belonged nowhere and everywhere, he said one evening, his voice soft in the gathering dusk. My mother taught me that being caught between two worlds wasn't a weakness but a strength. We could see things others couldn't, understand perspectives others missed. Patience found herself opening up to him in turn, speaking of her grandmother who had taught her the healing arts, of her dreams to someday combine the best of traditional medicines with the newer methods she had read about in medical journals. I don't want to reject new knowledge, she explained. But there's wisdom in the old ways that shouldn't be lost. Adam nodded, understanding in his eyes. That's how progress really happens, not by discarding the past, but by building on it. Summer turned to autumn, and Patience found herself becoming an integral part of ranch life. The men respected her skills, coming to her with their ailments and injuries without the suspicion she had faced in town. Even Mr. Reeves sought her advice when his old war wound troubled him during the changing weather. And always, there was Adam. He brought her wildflowers he found while riding the range, unusual stones that caught his eye, books borrowed from Mr. Reeves' library that he thought might interest her. Small gestures that spoke of thoughtfulness rather than grand romance. Yet they touched her more deeply than any passionate declaration could have. One crisp October evening, as they sat by the fire in her cabin drinking coffee, Adam asked the question that had been hovering between them for weeks. Are you happy here, Patience? It was the first time he had used her given name, and the intimacy of it sent a warm current through her. Yes, she answered honestly. Happier than I expected to be. His eyes met hers across the small table. Do you ever think of going back? To town, I mean. Or on to San Francisco like you planned? Patience considered the question carefully. Sometimes I wonder what might have been, but no, I don't want to leave. She hesitated, then added softly, this place has become home to me. The smile that spread across his face made her heart quicken. I'm glad to hear it. Later that night, after Adam had left, Patience stood on her porch gazing at the stars scattered like silver dust across the black velvet sky. For the first time since her parents' deaths, she felt truly at peace. The ranch had given her purpose, respect, a place to belong. And Adam had given her something she hadn't realized. She was missing the feeling of being truly seen and valued for exactly who she was. The first snow of winter came early that year, blanketing the ranch in pristine white. With it came new challenges, chilblains, and frostbite. The old wound in Mr. Reeves' leg that pained him more in the cold, respiratory ailments that swept through the bunkhouse. Patience worked tirelessly, moving between her infirmary and the bunkhouse, brewing syrups for coughs, preparing poultices for chest congestion. When 3 of the hands fell seriously ill with pneumonia, she barely slept for days, monitoring their fevers and struggling to ease their labored breathing. Adam was constantly by her side, bringing firewood to keep the infirmary warm, preparing broth for the sick men, forcing patience to rest when exhaustion threatened to overcome her. On the 4th night, as they sat vigil by the bedside of young Jimmy Peterson, whose fever refused to break, Patience felt a moment of despair. "What if I can't save him?" she whispered, watching the boy's chest rise and fall with painful effort. "What if my knowledge isn't enough?" Adam's hand found hers in the dim light. "You've done everything possible. Sometimes healing takes time." "And sometimes it doesn't come at all," she said, remembering her mother's final days, how helpless she had felt despite all her remedies. "You can't save everyone, Patience," Adam said gently. "But that doesn't diminish the value of those you do save." She looked up at him, finding strength in his steady gaze. "How did you become so wise, Adam Thornton?" A small smile touched his lips. "Not wisdom, just life." He squeezed her hand. "Now rest, I'll watch the boy." When she protested, he shook his head firmly. "You're no good to anyone if you collapse from exhaustion. I promise I'll wake you if there's any change." Reluctantly, Patience curled up in the chair by the fire, intending only to close her eyes for a moment. She woke hours later to find Adam placing a cool cloth on Jimmy's forehead. "His fever's broken," he said, relief evident in his voice. "Just about an hour ago." Patience hurried to the bedside, checking the boy's pulse and breathing. It was true the dangerous fever had finally subsided, and though Jimmy was weak, his breathing came easier. "Thank God," she whispered, tears of relief stinging her eyes. In the gray light of dawn, with Jimmy sleeping peacefully at last, Adam walked Patience back to her cabin. Snow was falling again, large flakes drifting lazily from a pearl-gray sky. "You should rest," he told her as they reached her door. "I'll check on the other patients and bring you news if there's any change." Patience nodded, too tired to argue, but as Adam turned to go, she caught his hand. "Thank you," she said simply, "for believing in me when I doubted myself." He looked down at their joined hands, then back to her face. Something in his expression made her breath catch a tenderness mixed with a longing that mirrored what she felt in her own heart. "Patience," he said softly. "I've believed in you since the moment I saw you walking out of town, head high despite everything they said about you." And then, as naturally as sunrise follows darkness, he leaned down and kissed her. His lips were warm against hers, the kiss gentle yet filled with unspoken feelings that had been growing between them for months. When they broke apart, Patience felt as though something fundamental had shifted inside her, as if pieces of her life that had been scattered by loss and rejection had finally begun to realign. "I should go," Adam said, though he made no move to release her hand. "Or you could stay," she replied, surprising herself with her boldness. "Just to talk," she added quickly. "I'm not sure I could sleep yet anyway." They sat before her fire, talking quietly as the winter day brightened outside. Adam spoke of his hopes for the future, saving enough to buy a small spread of his own someday, a place where he could build something lasting. "Would there be room for a healer on this ranch of yours?" Patience asked, her heart beating fast at her own daring. Adam's eyes, bluer than summer skies, met hers. "There would be room for you, Patience Dawson, in whatever capacity you wish to stay." The careful phrasing of his words told her he was offering more than just employment, more than friendship. He was offering a future if she wanted it. "I would need my own infirmary," she said, a smile tugging at her lips, "and freedom to practice my healing arts without interference." "Of course," he replied seriously, though his eyes danced with pleasure at her response. "And what else might you require?" Patience considered for a moment. "Respect, partnership, and—" She hesitated before adding softly, "love." Adam reached across the small space between them to take her hand. "Those I can promise. The first 2 I've given you from the start. The third." He paused, his thumb tracing circles on her palm, The third has been growing since I first saw you stand tall in the face of injustice." "Is that when you knew?" she asked. "That first night by the fire," he nodded. "There was something about your courage, your dignity despite everything. And then, as I came to know you, your compassion, your wisdom, your dedication to helping others, how could I not fall in love with you?" The words sent a flush of warmth through her. "Even knowing what the town thinks of me, that some call me witch, devil, woman." Adam's expression grew serious. "Especially knowing that, because I've seen the truth of you, Patience. Your difference isn't something to fear or condemn, it's a gift to those you heal, to this ranch, to me." His fingers tightened around hers. "Your difference is what I admire most about you. It's what I've been searching for all my life without knowing it." Tears welled in Patience's eyes at his words, not from sadness, but from the profound relief of being truly seen, truly accepted for exactly who she was. "I love you too," she whispered. "For seeing value in me when others saw only threat, for believing in me when even I doubted myself." Their second kiss was deeper than the first, a promise of all that could be between them. When they finally parted, Adam rested his forehead against hers. "Rest now," he said gently. "We have time to figure out the rest." As winter gave way to spring, Patience and Adam's love deepened and strengthened. They were married in April, with the ranch hands and Mr. Reeves in attendance. The ceremony was simple but meaningful, held outdoors with the mountains as their witness. Mr. Reeves gave them a wedding gift beyond their expectations, a small parcel of land at the eastern edge of R property, with water rights and enough acreage to build a home and start a modest ranch of their own. "Been saving it for the right person," he told Adam. "Someone who understands that this land needs tending, not just using. And your wife," he nodded to Patience, "she's got the same philosophy about healing. Taking what's needed, giving back what's possible." They built their home that summer, a sturdy cabin with an adjoining infirmary where Patience could continue her healing work. Word of her skills spread beyond the R, bringing patients from neighboring ranches and even, eventually, from Willow Creek itself. The first time Martha Williams from town showed up with her feverish child, Patience felt the old hurt resurface. But the desperation in the mother's eyes pushed aside any thought of turning her away. "The doctor says there's nothing more to be done," Martha explained, tears streaming down her face. "But I remembered how you saved the Wilkins boy when he had the same fever." Patience took the child into her infirmary, using the same herbal remedies that had caused her banishment. 3 days later, the fever broke, and Martha's gratitude was profound. "I was wrong about you," she admitted as she prepared to take her recovered son home. "Many of us were. We let fear cloud our judgment." It was the first of many such acknowledgments. Slowly, the reputation that had driven Patience from town transformed into one that drew people to her door not as a witch, but as a healer with knowledge both valuable and rare. Adam watched this transformation with pride but no surprise. "They're finally seeing what I saw from the beginning," he told her one evening as they sat on the porch of their home, watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. "That your difference isn't something to fear, it's something to treasure." Patience leaned her head against his shoulder, her hand resting on the gentle swell of her belly where their first child grew. "You saw value where others saw only threat," she said softly. "You gave me a home when I had none." Adam's arm tightened around her. "No, love. You gave yourself a home through your own courage and skill. I just had the good sense to recognize what a treasure you are." He placed his hand over hers on her stomach. "And now we're building something that combines the best of both of us, your healing wisdom, my love of this land." As darkness settled over their small ranch, Patience reflected on the journey that had brought her here, from outcast to respected healer, from solitary survivor to beloved wife, and soon to be mother. The banishment that had seemed like an ending had proven to be just the beginning. "Your difference is my dream," Adam had told her, and in the life they were creating together, she found the truth of those words. Her knowledge, once feared and rejected, now formed the foundation of their future, a future where differences were celebrated, not condemned, where ancient wisdom and new beginnings flowed together like tributaries joining to form a mighty river. And as stars appeared in the darkening sky, Patience Thornton offered a silent prayer of gratitude for the unexpected blessing that had come from being cast out, the discovery that sometimes one must leave the familiar to find where they truly belong.